Hello, welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is David Beck. David is a certified financial planner. He has his own company. It's called Bay Area Planners. He came to the United States from England in 1982. Today is July 23rd, so I imagine he's celebrating a little bit with his family, with our new little prince that's been born here yesterday. He worked in product management for electronic component manufacturers, including Tyco, and saw the youth culture at high-tech companies and decided that wasn't where he wanted to be long-term, so he got involved in financial planning. Graduated in 2006 from the financial planning program at UC Santa Cruz Extension. David, thanks for coming today.
A pleasure to be here, Michael.
Okay. So usually when I talk with David, we're talking about issues related to financing a college education, and keep an eye open because we will be doing an update related to that. But today he's going to be talking about another area that he's been working in a lot, and that's counseling the families of fallen soldiers as a contractor to the U.S. Army Reserve. So this should be a very interesting and a little different topic than I've covered in the past. So David, why don't you tell us a little bit about this program that you're involved with?
The program is called Survivor Outreach Services, and it helps the survivors of fallen soldiers. So our fallen warriors have made the ultimate sacrifice, and the U.S. Army is committed to supporting their families. Mm-hmm. So about 3 years ago, it set up this program to provide comprehensive and long-term support to families that have a death of an active duty soldier, mm-hmm. Be it in the regular Army, the Army Reserve, or the National Guard. These families are called Gold Star families, and the family members are called survivors.
Okay.
So the program supports all the members of the family, even unrelated ones such as fiancé. And it supports them whatever the cause of the soldier's death. It could also be accidental, illness, or self-inflicted, as well as killed in action.
So do they have to be in like one of these zones where there's a combat zone or whatever, or
when we get into it, there are some benefits which are specific to the combat zones.
Okay.
But our service, the Survivor Outreach Service, it doesn't matter whatever the location of the death.
Okay.
So it could even be an auto accident traveling to a drill, something like that here in the States.
Okay.
The service is free to survivors, and it's there for as long as they need it, or as long as they want it.
Okay.
So I'm honored to serve as a financial counselor. Mm-hmm. I work alongside of a person called a support coordinator. The support coordinator links the families with support groups for let's say for grief counseling, and local organizations, governmental or maybe charities. As a financial counselor, I help them with financial issues. And there are about 56 of us across the country.
Okay. So how do you come to be involved with these families?
It's an amazing system. So the U.S. Army actually has a group in it called the Casualty and Mortuary Affairs Operations Center. The goal of this center is that within 4 hours of a soldier dying, there's a team, a notification team, in full dress uniform at the door of the family members, the immediate family members. This team consists of a notification officer and a chaplain. Mm-hmm. So it's a sight that no Army family wants to see.
Right. They don't want to see you there.
These two people turning up in full dress uniform.
Yeah.
I don't know, you probably haven't seen it, but there are actually a couple of movies about this, because it is, an intensely emotional kind of situation.
I've seen movies where, they portray people notifying families, and obviously this is no picnic.
Right.
It takes a special kind of character in order to even do that sort of work.
Yes, it's amazing. And when you think of it, because your goal is to do the notification within 4 hours, the people who are trained to do this are spread across the country. And they sleep next to their full dress uniform, all ready to go. They can get a call in the middle of the night if the death is overseas, for example, and literally be at the family's door at 6 a.m. in the morning.
So I hope they wouldn't call before 6 a.m. in the morning.
No, they
A little discretion here.
no, the hours are, I think, from 6 to either 10 or midnight. I forget. But the amount of organization it requires is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
One death, you can imagine the parents are in one state, the wife might be in another, there might be older children spread about.
Yeah.
So there are a number of teams that would have to go out.
Wow.
So one of the movies is called The Messenger, starring Woody Harrelson.
Mm-hmm.
So once the family's been notified, those people bow out. That's the end of their role.
Right.
But within another 4 hours, another Army person called a casualty assistance officer will contact the family. That person takes the family through the transfer of the body if it's coming back from overseas or coming from a different state, and takes them through the funeral and maybe the memorial at the unit. They then work with the family to apply for all the Army benefits. This might take anywhere from about 3 months up to a year or so. And at some point in that process, then it begins to shift from this immediate support by the casualty assistance officer to my program, the program I work in, which is Survivor Outreach Services, who provide the long-term support.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a financial counselor, hopefully I get involved early in the process, because money is, the death benefits come into the family fairly early, and that's the beginning of when they need assistance.
Right, okay. So what kind of financial help do these families receive from the Army, or I guess I should say the armed services?
This program is unique to the Army.
Oh, okay.
However, we will serve, we will provide service to the other areas of the armed forces.
Mm-hmm.
But the casualty assistance officer role, I think, is unique to the Army.
Okay.
But what kind of benefits do they get? Obviously being a soldier is a dangerous business.
Right.
As we all know, regular insurance policies specifically exclude payment in times of war or for doing dangerous things. So there is a special service members insurance policy called SGLI. All service members are covered by this. There's a very, very small payment taken out of their paychecks to do it. So you've got the insurance payment. The insurance payment can be $400,000. It's typically $400,000. On top of that, there's something called the death gratuity. The original idea of this was that no family should be, couldn't do something at the time of grieving because of lack of money. So they would be given money almost immediately in the process. And that death gratuity now is $100,000. So in terms of cash, there's up to $500,000. It might go to one person in the family. It might be spread amongst the family.
Okay.
After that, you get monthly benefits. There are two main monthly benefits. There's an annuity called the Dependency and Indemnification Compensation. And there's also like a pension for the soldier called the Survivor Benefit Plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some cash and then income.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be distributed amongst the family in different ways. So that each situation can be unique.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On top of that,
one more.
I can go on. Yeah,
But wait, there's more.
That's it. The other main benefit I'd identify is obviously, close to my experience, is the education benefits.
Okay.
They can be wonderful education benefits, and there's a number of them, so that it actually becomes a question of which ones to use and when to get the best effect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's one other thing I'd mention. something special. It's called the HEART Act, which stands for Heroes, Earnings Assistance and Relief Tax Act of 2008. Are you familiar with it?
I think I remember reading something about it back in 2008.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, how much, what's the contribution limit to a Roth IRA here in 2013?
In 2013,
Put you on the spot.
I should remember off the top of my head, but it actually went up a little bit for 2013. What is it, 5,500 or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that firm, that 5,500 limit? Or there's an extra 1,000 catch-up, right?
Well, yeah, there's a catch-up if you're over
Yeah.
age 55 or whatever. Yeah.
So 6,500, you think, is the limit?
Yeah.
In all cases?
Well, not for the people, our military.
Yeah, that's right. They're one of the. It's a wonderful benefit that really very few people know about. If you're a survivor who receives the SGLI, the insurance benefit, and the death gratuity, which can be, as I say, up to $500,000, you can put the whole of the $500,000 into a Roth IRA, which, as you can imagine, remember that money has come to you tax-free, and you can put it into a Roth IRA, and any growth, any earnings on that 500,000 would itself never be taxed.
Right.
So that's actually a very significant benefit to a family.
Right.
And yet very few people know about it. So I've had experiences of my families going into brokerage houses, banks, wanting to transfer that money into an account, and they're told, no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
So the banks don't know.
The banks
Well,
don't
most
know.
people don't know. I mean, because
Yes.
the military benefits they're sort of a special area in themselves, and since we're not dealing with it on a daily basis, a lot of us aren't really that familiar. That's part of the reason why you're here, David.
That's it. So one of my goals is obviously to make sure that every survivor who qualifies can take advantage of that, or at least knows that they can take advantage of it.
So some people wouldn't be comfortable about putting all that money aside into an account like that, because what it means is that you've sort of committed, at least for like 5 years, to leave it alone more or less, and so
not even 5 years. That doesn't apply either. So you can take the money back out again.
So you have more flexibility. Okay.
You have the flexibility.
Well, that's good
And
to hear.
while you're taking out the original 500 contribution, you're not paying
Right.
tax
So when you
or penalties, even if you're underneath the 59.5 age limit.
yeah.
If you go beyond that, take out more than 500,000, i.e. you're taking out some of the earnings,
Yeah.
then those earnings, if you're under 59.5, would be taxed and get a penalty.
Okay. Well, good piece of information there. Thank you. Okay. So.
There's one other benefit, I
But
think,
wait, there's more.
that might be of interest to you: tax abatement. Again, like very special because it only applies to the deceased service member.
Right.
Tax abatement, if it's a death in, as you say, one of those war zones, Iraq or
combat
Afghanistan, the soldier, or the estate rather, or the soldier doesn't incur any tax, and the estate can put in the tax return and get whatever tax has been taken out of the soldier's wages brought back.
So the tax on their final earnings or whatever is waived, more or less.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And depending on when that soldier went into the war zone, you can go back to up to the previous 3 years, file amended tax returns, and get that money back.
Wow. Okay. Well, that can be very helpful for these families, and obviously they're slammed. I mean,
Yes.
it's a devastating situation.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be in this situation, whatever the benefits.
So speaking of situations, maybe you can sort of spell out about these families. What is their situation? Maybe you can sort of give us a scenario of a typical family that you're dealing with, or
Yeah.
whatever.
For me as a certified financial planner, it's really been interesting working with these families because financial planners are used to giving advice, used to having an opinion about something and giving advice. The Army doesn't want the responsibility of these 56 financial planners giving advice. So we're called counselors as opposed to advisors. If you look in the dictionary, the difference between an advisor and a counselor, there's almost none if you read the definitions.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it's treated is that we provide education, we don't take decisions. We don't recommend a certain course of action. We describe the different courses of action and let the family pick.
Sounds like CPAs, but sometimes people really do need some direction, a nudge, if you will.
That's the difficult kind of area.
Uh-huh.
So, but in terms of the families, often you've got families which are unsophisticated or not as sophisticated. Typically, may not have paid people like financial planners before.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden they have a large amount of money, a large amount of cash. Unfortunately, there are situations where there was inadequate estate planning by the soldier, in pre-deployment planning, as it were. So
You'd think that they would sit on these guys or something. That
they try, but there's always something falling. Things fall between the cracks.
Yeah.
And also, there's been much more emphasis on it lately. You go back some years towards the beginning of the Iraq War, and things weren't done quite as well.
Maybe you don't want to remind people when you're sending them into a combat zone, oh yeah, well there's a good chance you're not going to be coming back. Maybe you should do some estate planning. Because there's a hard time getting them in the airplane to go overseas anyway.
So you get so these benefits are distributed according to two forms. One of which is the form for the death benefit for the insurance,
Mm-hmm.
that states who the money shall go to, and then the other one is all the other benefits. And it could be that the soldiers filled out the form, then a divorce happens or a marriage happens or something like that, and the form isn't updated.
Right.
So you can have really quite horrible situations where some members of the family really need the money, but didn't get it. It went to somebody else in the family.
Now, if they get married afterwards, isn't there there are rules related to protecting new spouses, aren't there?
Yes, there's supposed to be the opportunity if you're not giving the spouse the money, the spouse has to sign off on that.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been situations where even that has fallen through the cracks.
Wow.
For example, that notification is mailed to the spouse, but it could be lost in the mail, or the spouse has moved, it never reached her, that kind of thing.
Or she didn't know what it was when she got it, and it got stuck in a big bunch of mail, and it sort of
possibly
went into the wrong file.
Yeah. Another thing I deal with is that just some benefits weren't applied for at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that we're talking some years ago when remember the casualty assistance officer is doing this work. They're not financial planners.
Mm-hmm.
They're given checklists to go through and that kind of thing. But it could be that I've had survivors who the benefit application wasn't made at the time, and now the clock's run out and that kind of thing.
So there's like a statute of limitations, no way on some of this stuff. If you don't apply in a certain period of time, then you lose it.
In one of those, the dependency and indemnity compensation, you have a year to apply. After the year, it only starts from the date that you apply.
Okay.
So if you didn't know about it and didn't apply for 5 years, you lost the 5 years.
So there's no catch-up, but you can still get a ongoing benefit.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, good to know. And
So there are a lot of different benefits. One of my roles as a financial counselor is to know these benefits, and just to make sure that every application was put in and said the right things so that you get the maximum benefits.
How did you learn about the program and decide to enroll, if you will?
Uh, Actually, I received a call, I guess, through LinkedIn or whatever.
Huh.
They had a need in this area. I don't know who they contacted, but they contacted me, and I thought it'd be a good role for me to play.
Well, good for you. Thank you for that, David. So maybe you can tell us a few war stories. I hate to put it that way, but a few stories about some families that you've helped with this. We've got maybe about 8 minutes left.
Yes, like I said, maybe the things to talk about. One thing is that failure to apply for benefits.
Yes.
I'm working with a couple of not children anymore, the young adults who are off to college. And you remember I mentioned the education benefits,
right.
Really great education benefits. These were situations where the deaths occurred earlier in the Iraq War,
Mm-hmm.
And time goes on.
Yes.
People kind of forget about these things. So in one case, they hadn't contacted anybody for a long time, but as mere chance they happened to come across the program. Now I'm helping that particular student, with the educational benefits, the best use of the educational benefits. She's off to a private university, it's rather expensive, and we're trying to figure out, the best mix or the best sequence actually to apply these benefits, because it's quite likely that she'll go on, beyond the bachelor's degree.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So that's been a pleasure to work with. Other situations, like I say, not so good because of the situation that, like I mentioned, not everybody in the family gets the money.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the wrong person, or the person who might best benefit from the money doesn't get it. So there are also situations of working with people on budgeting, people who essentially lack money, who are struggling with that situation. And again, that's not something that financial planners regularly encounter, because we're fee-only financial planners are employed by somebody paying a fee.
Mm-hmm.
The type of person I'm working with on these situations wouldn't consider paying a fee.
So
they
what's
would
happening
normally
is
get help.
so the government is paying you for that, providing that service.
Oh yeah. Yes, I'm being paid by the government. Like I say, the service is free to the survivors, and that means that I have. I'm not coming from any particular direction, making any recommendations. Remember, I said I wouldn't anyway. I just educate.
Yeah, but it's important for people to understand. So there are people, like you said, that they're almost indigent or whatever. They're in a really severe financial position. They normally wouldn't be able to get this kind of help, but because of what's being offered here through the Army, that they in fact can get some guidance and some help.
And that's more the role of the support coordinator. Remember, my teammate, my partner, if it's an indigent situation, yes, then he would be the one to help them identify charities or local government support for them. I'm talking about maybe people not in that situation, but people struggling. So you might have a situation where, let's take an ex-spouse. An ex-spouse as a child of the soldier.
Yes.
Didn't get any of the money, the cash, because that went to the current spouse, perhaps, or the parents.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So she has the child. What's the best way to make use of the monthly income that she gets for the child? To help her with budgeting, something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Another situation, unfortunately, is where families make poor choices.
Uh-huh.
So, this big chunk of money comes in, other family members descend on them.
Yes.
Or they think it's a good time to just pay off the house.
Mm.
So you have situations where the house is paid off, mortgage-free, sounds great, but there's still the property taxes, the maintenance, and the income is reduced because the soldier's not around, the soldier's income's not around. and they get into financial difficulty, even to the extent of losing the house.
Oh, that would be a shame.
Yeah. So, but then there are successes as well. People who put that money into the Roth account, who might use parts of it for adjusting their housing, but are on track for being able to take an income out of it and yet still be on track for having a good lump sum on retirement.
Okay. So what has this meant for you, being involved in this program?
It's been an emotional experience in some cases, but really what I like about it is the fact that you have a broader kind of clientele than a regular fee-only planner might have. Being able to help people in slightly different ways, and I'm intrigued by this concept of the counselor as opposed to the advisor. And if the Army can offer those kind of services to its families, I'm wondering if large companies can do the same for their employees.
I have seen, some employers that have done, well, for example, I know a person that owns a trucking company, and he's had, some of their employees maybe get in an accident or whatever, and so at least he volunteers to help out in paying for the funeral and so forth, which is it's a nice gesture anyway. So, but it's really good to hear, that these benefits are available. And first of all, I want to express my appreciation to you for coming today and sharing this information. And it is going to be on the internet, so folks, even though maybe you have a friend or a family member that may be eligible for these, maybe, again, this may have happened years ago that their spouse passed away, and maybe they're eligible for benefits that they're not even really aware of, particularly those educational expenses for the kids, or the benefits for the kids, I guess I should say. So now those children are grown, and so this can be just a huge help for the family.
Right, and this program is available across the country. So maybe just Google Survivor Outreach Services or SOS, and find your nearest support coordinator and financial counselor.
Okay, so Survivor Outreach Services, Google that. Go to our Financial Insider Weekly site and share the link for this with your friends and family and whoever that you think it might help. Maybe even put it on your social networking information. We can go viral with this particular episode.
I hope so.
David, thanks again for sharing with us today. We appreciate it so much. Folks, we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.
Thank you.